Imagine betting everything on a strange, digital coin no one believed in, only to wake up years later as one of the wealthiest, most mysterious figures in history. That's exactly what one man did. His name, Elias. To most people, Elias was invisible. He worked a dull office job, clocked in at 9, out by 5. He wore the same pair of scuffed shoes to work every day. His apartment was small, the rent always a stretch. The neighbors barely noticed him. If they did, they'd probably say, "Quiet guy. Keeps to himself." Nothing about him suggested he was about to gamble his entire future on a digital currency nobody trusted. But late at night, behind a flickering computer screen, Elias was someone else entirely. He haunted online forums with strange usernames, where dreamers and skeptics clashed over the potential of Bitcoin. He read and reread Satoshi Nakamoto's white paper like scripture, dissecting every line until it lived in his mind. To him, Bitcoin wasn't nerd money or a fad. It was a revolution waiting to ignite. The year was 2011 when Elias made the decision that would change his life forever. At that time, one Bitcoin traded for less than the price of a cup of coffee. Some dismissed it as monopoly money. Others didn't even know it existed. But Elias had seen enough. He sold his car. He drained his savings. He even borrowed small sums from skeptical relatives who rolled their eyes at his obsession. His friends thought he was insane. Why waste your money on fake internet coins? They sneered. You'll regret this. But Elias wasn't deterred. Every dollar he scraped together went straight into Bitcoin. Thousands of them, when they were barely $5 each. At first, nothing happened. Months passed, then years. Bitcoin ticked up slowly, then dropped, then climbed again. But in 2013, the world began to take notice. Bitcoin crossed $100. For the first time, Elias's small gamble had transformed into a six-figure fortune. By 2017, when Bitcoin surged past $10,000, Elias was no longer just rich. He was a whale, a shadowy titan of the crypto world. His holdings were so massive that a single transaction from one of his wallets could send shockwaves through the market. Traders obsessed over him without even knowing who he was. They watched his wallets like hawks, dissecting every movement as if decoding prophecy. But Elias was unlike the loud crypto millionaires flashing gold watches and Lamborghinis on Instagram. He didn't want attention. He didn't want luxury. He didn't even move. He still lived in the same small apartment, still wore the same worn-out shoes, still drove a beat-up Toyota. To his neighbors, he was just another man struggling to make ends meet. Only behind closed doors did the truth sit quietly, on a laptop encrypted with layers of passwords and hidden drives. There, Elias controlled one of the greatest private fortunes in modern history. But wealth changes people. Not always in obvious ways. For Elias, it wasn't greed that grew inside him, it was silence. He stopped talking about his ideas. He stopped dreaming aloud. He withdrew further and further into his own world, because with his fortune came fear. Fear of being exposed. Fear of being targeted. Fear that the very revolution he believed in might also destroy him. The higher Bitcoin rose, the more Elias faded into the shadows. He wasn't motivated by yachts or penthouses. What drove him was something darker, more complex, the thrill of owning the future before the world even knew it existed. But with that thrill came an invisible weight. He began to realize that being a whale was not freedom. It was something else. Something heavier. A prison made not of steel bars, but of digital gold. Before we dive into Elias's hidden double life, make sure to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Would you have risked everything, your car, your savings, your family's trust, for Bitcoin back in 2011? Great, here's the full expansion of Chapter 2, The Hidden Life, written in the same cinematic style, tilde 750 words, with the hook plus CTA at the end. In one world, the visible world, he was ordinary. His co-workers saw a quiet man who never caused trouble. He came to work on time, left on time, and spoke little in between. If you passed him in the street, you wouldn't look twice. His family still thought he was scraping by. They believed he was stuck in the same financial rut as always, barely paying rent, barely surviving. He never told them the truth. But in his other world, the invisible one, he was a ghost with unimaginable power. Traders across the globe watched his wallets the way sailors once watched the sea. They gave him nicknames: the sleeping giant, the silent whale, the ghost. Whenever he moved even a fraction of his Bitcoin, entire markets trembled. Prices spiked or plummeted. Millions of traders panicked, cheered, or wept, all because of a man they would never meet. Elias knew the power he held, and he feared it as much as others did. He went to extreme lengths to protect himself. His coins weren't kept in a single wallet. No, they were scattered like treasure across dozens of cold wallets, hardware devices buried in safe deposit boxes, tucked into vaults in distant countries, even split into pieces and stored separately so that no one device held the full key. To lose one would not mean losing everything. He had designed his fortune like a fortress, layer upon layer of defense against the outside world. But paranoia has a way of growing, feeding on itself. The more Elias tried to secure his fortune, the more vulnerable he felt. Every day, his inbox filled with phishing attempts. Hackers disguised as friends, as banks, as relatives, begged for him to click one wrong link. His phone buzzed with strange messages. His online accounts were under constant siege. One morning, he opened his apartment door to find a note slipped under it. Just a few words, scrawled in pen: "Send Bitcoin, or else." Elias stood frozen, the paper trembling in his hands. Was it a prank? A coincidence? Or had someone finally discovered his secret? He couldn't risk finding out. Elias withdrew further from the world. He stopped attending family gatherings, stopped answering calls. Even friendships, once his only relief from the loneliness, faded into silence. Every new face was a potential threat. Every knock on the door made his heart pound. He taught himself to scan crowds with suspicion, memorizing exits, studying strangers' hands for sudden moves. Inside his apartment, he lived like a fugitive. His curtains stayed drawn. His laptop sat encrypted behind layers of passwords. He bought food in small amounts, never drawing attention. He lived not as a billionaire might, but as a man on the run. And yet, he was never on the run. He was trapped. The dream that had once lit his soul, the idea of Bitcoin as freedom, as revolution, now felt like a curse. He had achieved what others only dreamed of: enough wealth to buy kingdoms, to shake nations. But what good was it if he couldn't leave his apartment? What good was it if every shadow felt like a hunter? For Elias, the fortune was no longer a blessing. It was a cage of his own making. A prison where the walls were made of encrypted drives and the bars were worth billions. Still, he clung to it. Because deep down, he believed in what he had bought into. Bitcoin was no longer just money to him, it was destiny. It was the lifeline of a world breaking free from banks and governments. And he, Elias, was one of its keepers. But even destiny has a price. And Elias was about to pay his. Before we uncover the mysterious blockchain movements that shocked the entire world, hit that subscribe button so you won't miss the next chapter. And tell me in the comments, do you think today's crypto whales are truly safe, or are they all just living in fear, like Elias? The blockchain hums like a silent heartbeat, billions of transactions moving across a global ledger, permanent, immutable, eternal. To most people, those movements are invisible, just numbers flickering across a digital sea. But for those who watch closely, the blockchain tells stories. Stories of fortunes made, fortunes lost, and sometimes stories of something much darker. One evening, that silent heartbeat skipped. It began with a single alert on a monitoring site. Billions of dollars in Bitcoin, coins that had sat untouched for years, suddenly stirred. Analysts' dashboards lit up like Christmas trees. Wallets long believed to belong to Elias, the ghost whale, showed movement. Not a trickle. Not a test transaction. But billions, vanishing in a cascade of transfers. At first, no one believed it. Dormant wallets rarely wake up. When they do, it's usually small amounts, someone dusting off old keys, cashing out a sliver. But this was something else entirely. Coins fragmented into dozens of new addresses, split and scattered in a pattern that baffled even seasoned blockchain analysts. The community erupted. Forums filled with frantic threads. Twitter exploded with theories. YouTube live streams popped up overnight, charting every movement in real time. Memes flew, speculation soared, fear spiked. Had Elias finally decided to cash out? Was he hacked? Was he even alive? Some analysts argued the transactions were sloppy, evidence of a hack. They pointed to unusual IP addresses bouncing through foreign servers, suspicious clusters of activity in places known for cybercrime. To them, this was a theft on a scale the world had never seen. Others insisted it was an inside job. Someone close to Elias, someone who had earned his trust, had betrayed him. A misplaced USB drive, a forgotten shard of a private key, a careless slip. In the shadows of crypto, betrayal is currency. But the most chilling theory was also the simplest. Elias had done this himself. This wasn't theft. This wasn't loss. This was escape. What if Elias, after years of living in fear, decided he wanted out? What if he had engineered the perfect vanishing act, splintering his coins into a labyrinth of new addresses, scattering them like smoke, and walking away into the dark? It wasn't just his wallets that disappeared. His presence did too. The usernames he once used in obscure forums went silent. His encrypted email accounts stopped responding. Telegram channels where he lurked showed no activity. It was as if the man had been erased from the digital world. And in the physical world, the signs were even more unsettling. Neighbors noticed his apartment went dark. Curtains drawn. Mail piling up. Some said he hadn't been seen for weeks. Others swore they heard strange noises one night, a car idling outside, heavy footsteps on the stairwell. But when morning came, the apartment was empty. The furniture was gone. The fridge unplugged. The walls bare. Elias hadn't just left, he had vanished. The crypto world was left to fill the void with theories. Some were hopeful. Elias had finally broken free, living somewhere far away under new name, sipping coffee by the ocean while the world speculated about his fate. Others were darker, that he had been kidnapped, tortured for his keys, his fortune drained by criminals who would never be caught. And then there were whispers of something even stranger. That Elias wasn't gone at all, that he was still out there, moving through the digital shadows, laughing quietly as the world tried and failed to track him. The truth was out there, etched forever into the blockchain. Billions of dollars sat scattered across strange new addresses, untouched, silent, waiting. But who controlled them? No one could say. The whale was gone. But gone where? Before we dive into the chilling theories of Elias's disappearance, smash that like button and let me know in the comments. Was he hacked, betrayed? Or did he plan his vanishing act all along? When a man vanishes in the physical world, you can search his home, trace his calls, knock on doors. But when someone like Elias, the ghost whale, disappears, the investigation moves across two realities. One made of flesh and concrete, the other of code and numbers. And in both, he left behind nothing but silence. The first clue came not from law enforcement, but from the blockchain itself. Investigators, journalists, and amateur sleuths scoured the ledger, tracing the scattered fragments of Elias's coins. The money had been split into thousands of addresses, moved through mixers and tumblers, bounced across decentralized exchanges. But the trail was too perfect, too clean, almost as if whoever moved the funds knew exactly how the watchers would look. Almost as if he wanted them to see, to follow, to get lost. At the same time, whispers emerged from the physical world. A neighbor swore she'd seen Elias late one night. Two men at his door, voices raised, then silence. Another claimed a black SUV had been parked on the street for days before his disappearance. Windows tinted, engine idling. Law enforcement grew interested. Not because of Elias himself, they rarely cared about the anonymous ghosts of crypto, but because of the sheer scale of his fortune. Billions of dollars in Bitcoin weren't just missing. They were in motion. And whenever money that large moves without regulation, governments start asking questions. But official records offered no answers. His passport had not been used. His bank accounts remained untouched. His phone, last pinged on a rainy Tuesday night, had gone dark. His apartment lease had been terminated without notice. The trail stopped cold. That only fueled the theories. Some insisted this was a kidnapping. That shadowy organizations, or even governments, had tracked Elias down, forced him to surrender his keys, and erased him. They pointed to the SUV sightings, the abrupt silence, the perfectly timed movements of his coins. Others believed Elias had staged his own disappearance. To them, the signs were obvious: the empty apartment, the carefully orchestrated transfers, the precision of it all. This wasn't chaos. This was control. Elias hadn't been taken, he had slipped away. But then came the detail that unsettled even the skeptics. In the weeks after his disappearance, a message appeared on a dormant Bitcoin address long associated with Elias. It was a single transaction with no monetary value, just a text string encoded in the metadata. 4 words: "The whale swims free." The message sent shockwaves across the crypto community. Was it proof Elias was alive? A taunt from his kidnappers? Or just an elaborate hoax by someone seeking attention? No one knew. Governments tried to trace the origin. Cybersecurity experts dissected the transaction. Analysts compared writing styles, hunting for a match. But nothing definitive surfaced. It was a breadcrumb in the dark, one that only deepened the mystery. Meanwhile, conspiracy theories grew louder. Some argued Elias had joined a private crypto collective, vanishing into an offshore utopia where billionaires and hackers live beyond the reach of law. Others whispered he had faked his death entirely, using his fortune to buy a new life with a new face. And then there was the most haunting theory of all, that Elias was gone for good. That the message wasn't his. That someone else had taken his empire, and his silence was the final confirmation. What made the story so unsettling wasn't just the disappearance itself, it was the scale. Billions of dollars in digital gold, suddenly without a visible owner. Money that could sway markets, fund revolutions, or vanish forever into encrypted vaults. The fate of one man was tied to the fate of a fortune. As weeks turned to months, the trail grew colder. The blockchain still pulsed, silent and eternal, carrying Elias's fortune across the world. But in the real world, no one saw him again. The ghost whale had vanished. But if the whale swims free, where does it swim to? Stay tuned, because in the next chapter we'll uncover the legacy of Elias, the myths, the warnings, and the chilling truth about what happens when too much power, too much wealth, and too much mystery are bound to one man. Before we dive in, drop a comment. Do you think Elias disappeared by force or by choice? Legends are not written in stone anymore. They are carved into code. They ripple through forums, whisper across encrypted chats, and echo in the immutable heartbeat of the blockchain. And Elias, the ghost whale, is no longer just a man. He is a myth. Even in his absence, his shadow looms large. To some, Elias is a hero, a lone genius who outsmarted both governments and criminals, proving that a single individual armed with knowledge and courage could hold billions beyond the reach of law. To others, he is a ghost story, a warning whispered to traders and developers that wealth without identity is as dangerous as it is alluring. But perhaps his greatest legacy isn't the fortune he left behind. It's the questions. Every time a dormant Bitcoin wallet stirs, people wonder, is it him? Every time markets spike after an unexplained transfer, someone asks, has the whale returned? Elias's presence, or perhaps his absence, creates ripples that never truly fade. The uncertainty is the point. Consider the power his disappearance revealed. One man, one set of keys, billions in value. A ghost with the ability to rattle markets, topple confidence, and inspire a new generation of crypto dreamers and outlaws alike. The ghost whale became proof that in this new financial frontier, trust and terror are two sides of the same coin. And yet, beneath the speculation, a chilling reality lingers. What if Elias isn't gone? What if he's still watching, moving silently through VPNs and mixers, reshaping his empire in ways the public will never see? Or worse, what if his keys were lost forever? Billions, locked away in wallets that no one, not even governments, not even supercomputers, can ever touch again. A digital tomb, echoing with value but sealed for eternity. To traders, that's tragedy. To dreamers, it's poetry. To skeptics, it's proof that crypto is fragile, volatile, and terrifying in its permanence. Elias's legacy has also bled into culture. Songs reference him. Films hint at him. On obscure message boards, he's invoked like a spectre, "Don't be the next Elias." Conferences use his story as a cautionary tale, warning about the dangers of concentrated power. And yet, for every warning, there's a whisper of admiration. Young coders write scripts to analyze his addresses, hoping to learn from his precision. Wannabe whales idolize his secrecy. Hackers swap theories of his escape like bedtime stories for the digital underground. The ghost whale is both idol and curse. But perhaps the greatest truth about Elias is this: he embodies the contradiction at the heart of cryptocurrency itself. Freedom and fear. Transparency and anonymity. Wealth and ruin. To chase one is to risk the other. And Elias's story, whether he is sipping coffee in a seaside villa or lying in an unmarked grave, remains the perfect parable for a technology that promises liberation while teetering on chaos. So who was he, really? Some say a visionary, others a fugitive, others still just a man who got in too deep. But maybe the real answer doesn't matter. Maybe Elias was never meant to be just one man. Maybe the ghost whale was always a mirror, reflecting our hopes, our greed, our paranoia, and our hunger for legends in a digital age. Because in the end, myths don't need endings. They only need echoes. And Elias's echo still lingers, in the blockchain, in the markets, and in the imaginations of millions who wonder if they too could vanish into the shadows with untouchable fortune. The whale swims free. Or maybe, the whale never existed at all. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the enigma of Elias, the ghost whale. If this series gripped you, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss more stories that live at the intersection of mystery, money, and myth. And tell me in the comments, do you think Elias is alive, or is the ghost whale just another story we tell ourselves about the power of crypto?